Hello, I'm Rose Schofield. I work in higher education in the UK, and I've asked my colleague Alex to join me today to help me share the story about the meaning of transformations, finding threads, and the stories people tell themselves. This builds on my paper, which is to be published in the International Journal of Learning.
The basis for your paper is formed around a statement by Sir John Whitmore, who makes a very profound statement. Could you just talk a bit about that for me?
In 2008, he actually said, if we don't change direction, we'll end up where we're headed, oblivion. And this was a coaching conference held in London. And it was like, wow, a mirror for me. And I was thinking, you know what, I work in higher education, in business management, in leadership and organization development. And I was thinking, my gosh, what is my responsibility in all of this? And it actually left me pondering and reviewing what we're doing, and it made me reflect on my own practice, about my own practice, and during practice, so in practice. And it left me with 3 questions. What is it that we need to be listening to? Are we, as education professionals in business, leadership and management related studies, really listening? And having explored about my own practice, it actually leaves me with another question. What does this have to do with the stories people managing and leading organizations tell themselves?
So Rose, I believe you've done a bit of work around these questions. So what does that mean in terms of when we're cultivating the next generation of business leaders?
My understanding, the idea is to help people think better and not to tell them what to do.
So what does that mean for you teaching?
It means that I have a measure of impact and influence on those I aim to teach. It means that my own philosophy may come into this because it will inform what I do. It will also shape who I am and in future who I can become. And this is going to be evidenced through my message, which sets up my own values and beliefs. Having worked through this paper, exploring what I am doing, exploring the meaning of transformations, finding threads in the stories people tell themselves, it makes me recognize that I am actually inspired by people like Gandhi, who says our life is the message. We must become the change that we want to see in the world. And if we look to the work of Meister Eckhart, he talks about one must not always think so much about what one should do, but rather what one should be. Our works do not ennoble us. We must ennoble our work.
So we're really looking to live the content rather than it just being a prescriptive list of what you must do. We're talking about really trying to inhabit the knowledge that we're trying to get across to our students.
It's about being.
Absolutely. So that covers the philosophy of what we're trying to do. So you've actually done some work with students kind of covering this material and trying to get them to think better. So what kind of results have you been seeing?
I reveal the case study of one manager in particular. And it was listening to their narrative that actually made me realize the meaning of transformations. And in this, having been through this facilitative process where I'm actually helping them come to think better, that these results come. This person talks about, I discovered skills I did not know I possessed. Well, that suggests that buried in there somewhere, they'd just forgotten about it. This had such a positive impact on my relationships with others. Well, this suggests that there's a cognitive behavioral development process taking place as well. And others are asking what happened. Well, you know what? There's something major going on here. This is transformation. There's transformative learning going on here. It's all come about because I was thinking about, well, what is it? What is my measure of impact and influence on these people? And having looked at myself in the mirror, and I was thinking, this is not about me telling them what to think or what to know. This is about helping them mobilize what they already know. Stepping back to review my own teaching practice has allowed me to explore what can take place between the learner and the teacher. And for me, the clue is it has a lot to do with the relationship of which learning is part. There's something going on between the intra and interpersonal skills. To bring about transformation, it is more about hearing and less about telling. I have seen how complex it can be. And a lesson here is if we are to change direction, management in higher education must be aware that to help people think better, it takes much more than simply giving knowledge.
So what is the process leading up to that transformation? How does that work?
If we look to this particular manager's narrative, and we looked at other research as well to compare and to contrast, this individual began by focusing on their low self-esteem and a tendency to reflect on experiences, past experiences, in particular ill health and skills they no longer had, thought they no longer had, or found difficult and frustrating. This is what I believe we need to be listening to. They talk about being wrapped up in what was going on around them in a negative sense, which shaped their story of cyclical, inward-looking, negative thinking. And yet all of a sudden, through this intuitive process that I come to realize I work with, they discovered skills they did not know that they possessed. And their reason for this was that I was challenging them, and in turn they were challenging themselves. However, the word challenge could be open to interpretation. And it is not about challenging in a harsh sense. It's about listening. It's about hearing. It's about hearing those cue moments and finding places within that learning space to move their learning from one place to another place.
So you're really giving learners the opportunity in the environment to alter their internal dialogue, and by that undo some of the learned behaviours that might hold them back. But how do you generate that environment?
Having got this far in what the meaning of transformation can mean, made me refer back to previous research that I'd undertaken. In this, I looked at the preference of teaching style in higher education. Admittedly, it was a smallish sample group. I probably worked with 75 people. However, it was enough. And it was 3 different sample groups, so I was able to compare and contrast. And facilitative style actually came out as a preference. And I asked the students what it is that takes place, what it is that the tutor does that is different and that brings about this positive learning experience. And in this, they said nothing we asked or said was ever wrong. Everything was turned into a positive, and the tutor took a personal interest in us, which suggests that there's skills required here for reframing, for offering unconditional positive regard, for not being judgmental, and for allowing the student to be who they are.
In terms of recognising the individuals, what is the key to enabling transformation then?
Do you know, I think, does it really matter? What I believe is you are actually dealing with the neurobiological sciences, and every human being is so complex. I don't believe we can say it is this or it is that. And I think this is where the art of facilitation actually has a role to play here. And it is about recognizing that some individuals will be ready to learn, others won't. Everybody will be at a different stage of their learning journey. And I think also the meaning of transformation clearly has something to do with unlocking possibilities and creating opportunities to bring about a new self-set. You're moving from a mindset, as we saw earlier with the manager, to this new self-set where this positive outlook. When the individual recognizes this, I believe you have helped them find the key to their potential. But to get to this point, however, there must be opportunities in this learning space embedded into the learning process for questioning and creativity to inspire learner curiosity, wonder, dialogue, insight, inquiry, courage, and responsibility. I incorporate Benedetto's ideas into this facilitative approach. I build in the process of reflection over time as indicated by loops over time in this model. Through this, you are able to bring about new meaning schemes and transformational learning. And the model encapsulates the point about reflecting on the next step and making links to previous experience or tasks done.
It's really interesting that we're using the learner's experience, their own experiences, to really enhance their learning and our teaching.
And it shows me the importance of reflection and learning, and it also brings me back to the statement earlier about my role being one to help people think better and not tell them what they need to do. And reflecting as a result of this profound statement has taken me on this amazing journey. And it also brings me back to the beginning and makes me fully appreciate what it is that we in higher education, in business leadership and management studies, may be needing to be listening to. Because we have seen since 2008, Whitmore's statement, global recession, enormous changes in business, enormous changes in higher education. It brings me right back to the third question I asked in the beginning. What does this have to do with the stories people who are leading, managing organizations are telling themselves?